Okay, so most of us trust our AI agent way more than we'd ever trust a junior dev with prod access. And we don't even think about it. We just let it rip. And then Apple drops this paper end of April and goes, yeah, that's the whole bug. That's why your agent keeps blowing up your repo. And here's the embarrassingly simple fix you've been ignoring. So here's the thing. If you've been running Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, whatever, for any real amount of time, you already know this feeling. The agent's cruising, it's making moves, and then it does the thing, deletes a file it shouldn't have, overwrites a config, pushes a commit you weren't ready to push, hits some endpoint that fires off a real world action, and the second you see it happen, your stomach kind of drops. Because, yeah, you can recover maybe sometimes, but sometimes you really can't. And the agent, it's already moved on. And here's the part that really got me. Most of the time, the agent actually does notice. Like a couple turns later, it goes, that wasn't right. Let me try again. And it tries to fix it. But the fix is happening after the explosion, right? The state is already changed. The email is already sent. The row is already gone. So the agent spends the rest of the session trying to climb out of a hole it dug, which, you know what I mean, is basically just burning your tokens to apologize for damage that's already done. So this Apple paper, the reinforced agent thing they dropped end of April, it's looking at this exact problem and going, okay, what if we just didn't let the bad call fire in the first place? What if there's a moment between the agent picking a tool and actually running it, where something quietly steps in and goes, wait, you sure about this one? And that little gap, that one extra beat before execution, that's the whole bet. Because once the call runs, it's over. But before you still have options, you still have a chance to course correct without paying for it. And look, for a solo dev, this hits different than it would for a team running enterprise pipelines, because a team has rollback systems, staging environments, code review, somebody on call at 2 a.m. You and me, we've got maybe a stash, maybe a recent commit, maybe a backup we forgot to update. So when our agent fires a destructive call, we feel it right in the chest. And the recovery isn't some ticket somebody else handles. It's our entire afternoon or worse. So yeah, the idea of a checkpoint right before execution, that's not theory for us. That's just survival. Just real quick, I'm Daniel. Been in the iOS trenches for, well over 9 years now. Started out doing UI work, slid into actual dev over time, kept bouncing between freelance gigs and my own weird little app experiments along the way. Then after Dub 25, something just clicked and I went full solo. Since then, I've crafted over 26 of my own apps, started building everything in public, and right now, pretty much every spare hour I have goes into Crafter's Lab. And yeah, it's not another tutorial site, not some AI clone farm. It's a live workshop. Slack's where I'm building out in the open, agents in the mix, the crew building right alongside me. It's for solo devs who treat AI like a real teammate, not a vending machine you smash when you're stuck. So if you're serious about shipping stuff that actually lasts, not just AI slop you delete next week, you'll feel right at home in there. And yeah, if you're still hanging on with Patreon, huge thanks, genuinely, but heads up, everything's moved over to crafterslab.dev. That's where it's all actually happening now. So come be part of the crew. Would love to have you building with us. Okay, so here's where the paper gets actually interesting. The whole architecture is wild simple, like almost embarrassingly simple, which honestly is usually a good sign. Apple's move is just slide a second agent into the loop right before the tool call fires. The main agent does its thing, picks a tool, fills in the arguments. But instead of just running, that provisional call gets handed off to a reviewer. And the reviewer's only job is to look at it and go, yeah, okay, fire it, or nah, kick it back. And here's where it really clicked for me. As a solo dev, you don't have anyone looking over your shoulder. That's kind of the whole gig, right? You're the architect, the dev, the QA, the PM, the marketing person, all of it. So when your agent runs, there's nobody between it and your repo, nobody asking, hey, are you sure that's the right file? Hey, did you mean to delete that? And we've gotten kind of comfortable with that. We just trust the agent. And honestly, most of the time it works, most of the time. But the times it doesn't, yeah, those are the times that hurt. And the cool thing about this reviewer setup is it's not editing the tool call. It's not trying to fix it. It just acts as a gate. Approve, reject, that's it. If it rejects, the main agent goes back, generates a fresh call, sends it again, and the loop continues until something gets through or you hit your turn cap, which means the main agent stays in charge of the actual thinking. The reviewer is just the bouncer at the door. And you know what I mean? That separation, Isaac, is actually kind of elegant because you're not bolting on more complexity to your main loop. You're just adding one quiet voice that asks, hold up, you sure about that one? And look, here's the part that's super relevant for us. The reviewer doesn't even have to be the same model as the main agent. In fact, Apple's results were way stronger when they used a reasoning model as the reviewer over a standard chat model, which, come on, makes total sense. Different model, different training, different biases, different perspective. It's basically the difference between asking yourself if your code is good versus asking someone else to actually look at it. The someone else catches stuff you'd never catch on yourself. And for a solo dev workflow, that's huge. You can run your usual agent for the main work, then slot in a slower, smarter reviewer just for the high stakes moves. It's not all or nothing. It's surgical. Now, I will say, and the paper kind of glosses over this part, every single experiment they ran used a non-reasoning model as the main agent, which, for what it's worth, means the reviewer probably looks more useful in their results than it would if your main agent was already a reasoning model that wasn't making those mistakes in the first place. So, like, your mileage might vary depending on what you're already running. But the core idea is just solid. A second voice. Before the action, not after. Okay, so here's the thing nobody's going to tell you in the paper itself. The pattern is real, the architecture works, but it's not free. And as solo devs, we feel cost in a way that a research team just doesn't. Because every extra round trip is our time, our tokens, our bill. So before you go and bolt a reviewer onto every single one of your agents, let's actually talk about when this makes sense and when it really doesn't. Because here's the brutal part. Every tool call now costs way more latency than before. You're paying for the call to get planned, then paying for the review on top every single time the agent wants to do anything. Single turn, high volume stuff, brutal hit. Multi-turn, slower workflows, less brutal, but still real. And for any solo dev running an interactive workflow, like a chat style agent right inside your editor, that lag is the first thing you're going to feel. The agent will just feel slow, and slow agents kill flow. Doesn't matter how smart they are. If they make you wait, you stop using them. Period. And here's where I'd try this. Pick your spots. Not every tool call deserves a reviewer. Reading a file, searching code, listing a directory, those are basically free. There's nothing to undo. Let those rip, full speed. But writing to a file, running a destructive shell command, hitting an external API that costs money or sends emails or deletes records, yeah, that's where the reviewer earns its keep. So instead of wrapping the whole loop, you wrap just the dangerous moves. Cheap calls go through clean, high stakes calls go through the gate. And that's not in the paper, but it's what I'd actually do if I were dropping this into a solo workflow tomorrow morning. And the other thing, the reviewer can only catch what it can see if the tool call looks fine on the surface with reasonable looking arguments, but it's gonna do something subtly wrong because of context the reviewer just doesn't have. It's going to pass it right through, same way you'd pass it through. So it's not magic. It's not a safety net for everything. It's a safety net for the dumb, obvious mistakes, the wrong tool, the wrong argument, the call that shouldn't even be happening yet, which honestly is most of the painful ones, but not all of them. And we should be real about that going in. Look, here's where I land on this. If you're already running Claude Code, or Codex or Cursor, you don't need to rebuild your whole stack. The harness is already doing a ton. but you can absolutely introduce a reviewer pattern on the layer above, a skill that gates your destructive tools, a sub-agent that double-checks high-stakes calls before they fire, a brief that tells your agent to pause and explain itself before doing anything irreversible. That's the seam. That's where you actually have room to move, and it's the kind of thing I've been quietly wiring into my own setup. Got a little workflow for it living in Ops Lab now, just for the destructive stuff. And so, yeah, if you're still here, honestly, you're a legend. And the thing I keep coming back to with this paper is it's not the architecture that's wild, it's the framing. Like, we've all been treating tool calls as fire and recover. And the whole point of the reinforced agent thing is just no, fire and recover is for systems that can recover. Solo devs can't always recover. So we have to gate before, not heal after. And honestly, that mindset shift alone is worth sitting with for a minute. And, if you want to go way deeper on all this stuff, come check out crafterslab.dev. I've poured real time into this. Built it for solo devs running Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, whatever shows up next month. It's not a tutorial dump, not an AI clone farm. It's a live workshop. I built it for devs who treat AI like a real teammate, not a button you smash when something explodes. And it's packed. Video walkthroughs, paired with articles, paired with downloadable zips you drop straight into your project. Members can riff in the comments, ask follow-ups, go back and forth, and the whole thing syncs into Slack, so the conversation just keeps going. And yeah, Slack's where the real workshop lives. Crew's in there, agents are in there. Kind of feels like everyone's just building in the same room. That's just the surface, though. The real core is the Notion team spaces, my live playbook. Members get a front row seat to my command center. Every app I'm working on, the dashboards, the workflows, the actual .md files I'm running on real projects, the docs I'm writing as I go, the automations I'm wiring up in the background. None of it polished for show. It's just what I'm actually using, raw, on real apps. There's a whole Swift brain team space in there too, not some auto-generated pile of nonsense. Real, up-to-date material. Deep dive keynotes, private talks I paid serious money to sit in on, my AI skills for the complex Swift UI animation, work you flat out can't get from public training data. It's the modern stuff, the kind of thing I use to power up agents, fine-tune models, build custom MCPs for Claude Code, for Cursor, all of it. Always experimenting, always posting about what's actually working in the lab. And then there's Ops Lab. That's where I drop all my Notion AI agent instructions, the templates, the workflows, the automations, wired up and ready for you to copy, tweak, completely break, and make your own. The whole point is to keep the indie stack connected. So even when you're solo at the keyboard, you don't feel like you're building in a silo. And yeah, this reviewer pattern from Apple's paper, that's exactly the kind of thing I'm going to be playing with in there over the next bit. So yeah, if you want to get in before things get busy and prices start moving, now's kind of the sweet spot. Crew's still small, super hands-on, way more behind the scenes dev lounge vibe than some giant faceless forum. Would love to see you in there. Swap some stories, maybe even pick up something from whatever you're cooking up next. Keep crafting, keep gating, and don't let your agent fire what it can't take back. Peace.